Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the first assembly of the new academic year here at Prior Park. Now, the last assembly I gave was the one to last year's leavers. It was on the world's tallest buildings, and it finished with an exhortation to all of them to go out and conquer the skies, to build higher into them than anyone ever has, and to change the world. Now, I do try and think a fair bit about my assemblies, at least before I give them, but afterwards I tend to put them to bed and leave them be. However, I kept coming back to this one throughout the summer holiday, every time I saw a tall building, in fact. And what became clear to me is that whilst I was happy with it, I felt it missed something. I never spoke about the foundations of the massive structures that I was referencing. I started to think then about that, and to think about the whole concept of the foundations of buildings and the foundations of our lives. I reckon that most teachers who've worked here for a few years would probably be able to play Horan Bingo, those phrases that I use fairly frequently. I've even had staff and some students quote some of them back to me, which is slightly disconcerting. However, it does show that at least some people are listening, which is reassuring. A few lines that I use a fair bit are: the perfect is the enemy of the good, and sometimes, always, never, that one in relation to blazer buttons. One that I tend to use at this time of year, though, is schools exist to serve young people. My father-in-law, who was a headmaster for many years, said this to me years ago, and I've shamelessly stolen it ever since. It helps all of us teachers to remember why we're here. Now, no school should exist for any other reason than to serve the young people who attend it. Schools don't exist to give teachers and headmasters jobs. They certainly shouldn't exist to give society a biddable workforce in the future in some nightmarish 1984 vision of education that occasionally gets trotted out in the press. They should exist to serve the young. And I've been thinking about what that means and what serving you well looks like. I think I've concluded that serving you well actually means giving you foundations for your life ahead. Now, my favourite author is a chap called P.G. Wodehouse. He was writing in the first half of the 20th century. And some of you may have heard of his two most famous creations, Jeeves and Wooster. Bertie Wooster is what would have been referred to as a fop, a member of the idle rich, who is forever getting into scrapes, through no fault of his own, of course. Jeeves is his valet. A valet was also known as a gentleman's gentleman. The valet serves one man and looks after everything that needs doing. He serves Bertie by doing what Bertie needs him to do at any given time. Jeeves irons Bertie's clothes, brings him his breakfast, usually at some point in the early afternoon, and runs him his bath. Now, there is certainly an argument that that is what good service looks like. Running around after those who you are serving, anticipating their every need, and taking care of the menial tasks of life. In these stories, though, Jeeves is more than that. He is a formidably intelligent man, filled with plans, stratagems, and convoluted methodologies of extracting Bertie from the trouble he's managed to land himself in. He serves Bertie in a far broader way than merely being his skivvy. In the books, Bertie describes Jeeves as a sort of guide, philosopher, and friend, which, to my mind, is far more the sort of service that a school should be about. This sort of service takes many forms in the books. One of my favourite ways, and the most humorous ways, that Jeeves guides Bertie is by making sure he dresses appropriately. In one story, Bertie finds Jeeves sorting through Bertie's clothes and making a pile that he says is for discarding. Bertie: "Oh, wait a second, that white jacket's brand new." Jeeves: "I assumed it had got into your wardrobe by mistake, sir. Or else it had been placed there by your enemies." Bertie: "I'll have you know, Jeeves, that I bought this in Cannes." Jeeves: "And wore it, sir?" Schools definitely take an interest in what you wear, much in the manner of Jeeves. Now, some students undoubtedly think that this is an outrage and that they should be able to wear whatever they want, whenever they want, and however they want. That it is an infringement of their human rights to insist that a shirt is ironed or that a skirt is a suitable length. However, like Jeeves, schools are attempting to be that guide, philosopher, and friend. We want our students to be able to walk into any room in the future and judge what to wear and when. As I've spoken about before, we want our students to develop their own style. In short, we want them to get it right and not to get it wrong. Part of the service that schools give their students is to guide those students to make sensible, and in this case, stylish decisions. We're always looking to help them build the foundations that they will require in their future. Now, those foundations might well be academic. Those students who have started in the lower sixth this week have had a good foundation laid for their sixth form studies by the work that they have done towards their GCSEs. Irrespective of whether they're studying maths or English, they've all got a good foundation in those essential subjects that underpin so much else that they'll study. Our students all have a good grounding or foundation in the sciences and in theology, and as such they all understand the natural world that surrounds them and have begun to explore those deeper philosophical questions as to the reasons for their own existence. These are proper, academic and intellectual foundations. In the manner of those tall buildings, without a strong foundation of academic and understanding, you can never grow as an intellect. The taller the building, the deeper the foundations are. The same thing applies with academic growth. The best and the brightest people you will ever meet are the ones who keep learning, who keep adding to the depths of their foundations of knowledge. People who stop doing this stop growing. However, good schools take that guide, philosopher, and friend approach and develop it. Schools that have solid values which underpin everything that they do use those values to inform every interaction that they have with their students. Hopefully, in time, those values will start to inform every interaction that those students have with each other. And this matters here at Prior. We talk about love being at the centre of our school, and it's the central aspect of the foundations we try and help our students build. We want them to love their learning. We want them to love their friends. We want them to love themselves, and not in a self-obsessed or self-absorbed way, but in a way which allows them to know who they are and what they want to do with their lives. We want them to love each other and be kind to each other. We want them to love the world around them and to contribute to the betterment of that world. Love underpins our 3 college values: curiosity, generosity, and courage. Those values that we want to see all of our students exhibit each and every day. Now this evening, our first 15 will be playing downside school under lights just up the road at Coombe Down Rugby Club. So do pop up and see it if you can. It promises to be a humdinger of a match. At the same time, in a slightly bigger match, dare I say, France will take on New Zealand in the opening game of the 2023 Rugby World Cup. France is hosting the tournament, and they are certainly one of the best teams in the world. They definitely have the best player in the world, Antoine Dupont. This incredibly talented French scrum half makes the game look easy. Skillful, quick and strong, he's a player who would walk into any team on the planet. However, as good as Dupont is, he is operating on incredibly firm foundations. There are his personal foundations. He's from a town in Gascony called Auch, and it is rugby crazy. Since he could walk, he's had a ball in his hand, and he's worked hard to become the poster boy of French rugby and the winner of the World Player of the Year title. Dupont is, though, a scrum half, and the part of the world that he's from is renowned for being scrum crazy. I love the word that the French have for the scrum. It is called the mêlée. In English, we use the word mêlée to mean a confused fight or a scuffle, which is probably what a rugby scrum looks like to most people. Dupont, though, isn't in the scrum. He's a small chap who puts the ball in and then gets it back out. In his part of the world, the French have a saying, pas de mêlée, pas de victoire, or no scrum, no win. Part of the reason why Antoine Dupont is quite as good a player as he is because at club level for Toulouse and international level for France, he is playing behind an amazing set of forwards who do all the hard work so he can have space and time to show his flair and talent. His foundations then aren't simply Dupont's and his alone. His success rests upon the foundations that his scrum provides. He is, as we all are, dependent upon those around him to thrive. Foundations matter, and your own personal foundations matter. However, you should always try and be in an environment whereby you can be helped, supported, and enabled by those around you. Good people will help broaden and deepen your own foundations. Dupont has managed that, so he can, and he does, flourish. I do hope he flourishes tonight, as I quite like seeing New Zealand lose. This afternoon, we open our new Founders Garden. Now, you'll have seen it on your walk through the school. It's a remarkable accomplishment, and it takes a neglected space on our site and turns it into a beautiful, calming, and pleasant place to be. To many of you, from the outside, it may well appear to just be a garden with a meandering walkway through it. However, I'll say the name again. It is the new Founders Garden. It celebrates all those who have helped the prior foundation. Those people who helped form the foundation in 1981 when it looked like this school would close. They had the courage to think big and to save a school in need. Those alumni who have gifted significant sums of money to the college to build our school are also celebrated. Several of these alumni will be here this afternoon, so do please be nice to them. One, Mr. Shin, who left in 1985, will be opening our newly refurbished, rebuilt and redone sixth form centre. All of the work for which he has funded. There will be other alumni here today who gave money to our bursary funds, funds which we can and do use to allow students to come here who may not have been able to do so without such generosity. This generosity has put our school on an incredibly firm footing and ready to deal with all the trials and tribulations that the world throws at us. All those alumni who will be here today have contributed to a foundation which has built our school, your school, into something special. A school which exists to serve you. A school which will build your foundations in every sense of that word. Work hard on building those academic foundations in the classroom, those personal foundations by engaging with our co-curricular program, and those moral foundations in how you approach every single interaction with every person here, every day. We'll finish today's assembly with a prayer. Dear Lord, help us to remember what love is. Love is always patient and kind. It is never jealous. Love is never boastful or conceited. Love is never rude or selfish. It does not take offence and is not resentful. Love takes no pleasure in other people's sins, but delights in the truth. Love is always ready to excuse, to trust, to hope, and to endure whatever comes. Love does not come to an end. Amen. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Thank you.